Hello and welcome to the DPod from the DPad. My name is Nick. With me as always is Sharon. Hi Sharon.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. This is episode 53. This is technically episode 1 again?
Of season 2?
Of
No,
season
it's
2?
53, but
53, yeah, I guess. But yeah, we are gonna kick off season 2 here, which means I don't know what it means. It means all new format, all new stuff, all new
everything.
Blazing guns and fire and brimstone and, maimings and killings and things like that.
That's right.
Because that's what we do here at the DPad. We kill things.
No, well, yeah, we do.
Sharon, I would like to say this episode is a bit of a throwback because it's fucking hot in here.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think it's
so
so bad.
hot. I used to always complain about how hot it was in the early episodes. And
Yeah.
I feel like we got that kind of under control for a while, and now it's really hot in here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about turning on the AC.
No.
Even we have with us this week Jeremy.
Hi.
Hi, Jeremy.
This is sort of a throwback.
Yeah, because Jeremy's here.
It's us three this week.
You've been gone here and there, but
Yeah.
we get you in when we can, and we understand you got your things going on. So,
But Jeremy was a very early guest on the podcast. He's been with us a lot since the get-go, so right from season 1.
that is true. That is true. Good to have you back. Unfortunately, Nick is not with us. Other Nick. He was supposed to be with us. He's having some internet connectivity issues.
Yeah.
His hardware handshaking is not working. It goes, instead of going beep 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 beep, bwah, it's going beep 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 beep, bwah. You notice the slight difference there? That's why he can't be on the podcast.
Aww.
It's okay. We'll get him back. He will be back next week, hopefully, for season 2, episode 2, the Devil Deuce. So no problems there, guys. We usually do now playing in this section, and I'm still going to put up a now playing placard because I've made a new one for this. But we are going to start off with a new segment that we like to call Gimmick of the Week, where we pick something ridiculous and then we all find a game that matches that requirement, and then we try to talk about those games.
Yeah, capture some footage, play it through the week, and then share our thoughts on it.
So we decided, and I'll play some Excite Bike just because
it's exciting.
Excite Bike is a great 2-player game.
Yeah. So this week's Gimmick of the Week, we decided to choose 2-player games since this is season 2, and we all went and sought out some good 2-player games. I don't know if they're all our absolute favorites or if they're just a good cross-section of them.
Yeah. I feel like this is a really easy gimmick, too. Like, this is kind of like a warm-up for us.
I feel like everybody has their go-to 2-player game, so it's probably pretty easy for us to go, ooh, I want to play that.
Yeah.
Yes,
It'll be for me. So.
I think it was universally. I think
in the future when we do Gimmicks of the Week, we might have to start to get more and more obscure, like games in which you can pick up and throw a chicken.
Well, I'm just going to say, if any of our listeners who happen to be listening to this either live or in the archives have ideas for us for our Gimmick of the Week, then you can feel free to email me, Sharon at fromthedpad.com, and we'll put all of the suggestions into a big hat and pull them out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Granted, we probably won't do a Gimmick of the Week every week, but...
No.
I feel like also if we picked games for each other that put all of us out of our comfort zones, that would also be pretty hilarious.
Yes, yeah.
So this week we did 2-player games, and I feel like when we talked about doing this, I know, Jeremy, you were not there. However, it was me and Sharon and Nick, and we were trying to decide what to do. And someone said, let's just do 2-player games. And then literally within 10 seconds of saying that, we had all already picked our game. Seriously, like that is not even a lie. Like you said, oh, 2-player games, that's easy. I'm going to pick blank. And then it's like, no, you got to pick blank. And then Nick was like, no, I'm going to pick blank. And And now looking at our agenda file, looking at all our videos, like we all stuck exactly to what we said immediately, like our first instincts.
Well, because Nick's not here, we should start by talking about what his game choice was.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about Nick's first. I feel like even though he's not here, we owe it to him to represent.
Yeah, we'll talk about what his choice was, and we can't talk about why he thought it was the best 2-player game, but we can talk about why we think it's a good one, or at least Nick can, because he played it.
I find it hard to believe you guys have never played this before.
I don't know. Once I see it, I might feel differently.
So Nick chose Combat for the Atari 2600. Very fun fact about Combat is it was the pack-in game for the Atari 2600 in most cases.
It was like your Duck Hunt.
Yeah, it's your Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt for the Atari 2600. And the Atari 2600, of course, was one of the first mainstream consoles. I believe that it came out in 77. So this game's pretty old. And do either of you guys have any extensive experience playing it with an Atari?
No.
No?
No.
So most games of this ilk.
I mean, not me.
There's a switch on the Atari 2600, which is like a game selection button. And you kind of have to think of it as every game has like 20 to 30 variations, and every time you press the game switch on the console, it will switch to a different variation. So Combat had quite a few games on it. I'm not going to venture how many because I'll probably get it way wrong, but it had many. So every time you hit the game switch button, it would switch to, for instance, what you see now is 2 tanks firing. This is probably the most commonly referenced Combat game on the cartridge, where one player controls one tank, the other player controls another tank, and you just shoot at each other. Not seen here is that the tanks are ridiculously hard to control, and the bullets are highly inaccurate. I just believe it's the first to 10 usually wins. Also, sometimes you get hit, you just randomly appear somewhere else on the screen. Then, if you keep hitting the button, the game button, you can get situations where the tanks are invisible. You can get to situations where the tanks are planes and you fly around. You get in situations where one plane is a huge plane with a huge bullet, and the other player is 3 smaller planes with 3 smaller bullets. And there's just endless variety. Very, very simple but fun gameplay, and you and a friend can just mess around, press the game button, find a new game on the Combat cartridge, and keep shooting each other over and over and over again. Also, when someone wins, the screen flashes all sorts of fun colors like this. Yeah, I mean, it's Atari. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot going on here.
I mean, it seems pretty. I mean, for an Atari game, this seems pretty legit.
It is
kind of randomize what you're gonna get.
Yeah,
it is like a limited number of play styles, I guess.
It's super archaic, but that's kind of what makes it fun. What we're actually viewing now, someone has moved on to the next game on the Atari, on the Combat cartridge. This one has reflecting bullets.
Oh, so they're bouncing.
Yes, the bullets bounce. The horrible thing about bouncy bullets is you can hit yourself. So if you aim directly at a wall and shoot a bullet, it will reflect back and hit you, and your opponent will get a point.
That's fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much depth here.
How competitive can you get with this game?
It depends. I guess if you were really into Combat, there's some strategies you can implement, but not a whole lot. For the most part, it's just, I mean, sometimes the way that the tank sprites rotate, it's actually kind of hard sometimes to figure out what direction you're actually pointed in. So, it's a good time though.
Yeah.
I definitely would not. The thing is, since it was a pack-in for the Atari, and the Atari was such an amazing selling machine, it is super easy to find Combat cartridges. I actually had a friend who made a coffee table out of Combat cartridges.
Oh, wow.
Because you could just go, if you can find a place that sells Atari 2600 cartridges, they'll usually sell them for like $0.10 a piece.
Gotcha.
Because they're worthless. I also knew someone who used to do homebrew for the Atari, and he would put all of his games on cartridges and send them around, and the cartridges he would use were Combat cartridges because they're the cheapest.
Yeah.
Even cheaper than ET cartridges, which are well known to exist in plethora in the wild due to their low selling
in the New
rate.
Mexican wild.
Yes. I wonder whatever happened to that
story.
That story where someone was thinking about digging all those up.
I don't know, hopefully somebody else bonked them on the head and said, no, bad.
Yeah, I mean,
bad gamer, stop.
I don't think this video has any gameplay of the planes, because the planes are a completely different. Well, like this one has. Look at this. So this is tanks, but there's nowhere to hide. So you just roll up. Oh, here we go. Not only is there nowhere to hide, but unless you are moving, like when you are not moving and shooting, you are invisible.
Oh.
So yeah.
That's strategy.
We're on the same cartridge, and you just first to 10 wins. That's combat.
Okay.
I wish I could tell you there was more to it, but
it's a good choice.
There isn't. I think when it comes down to it, you can't play this game by yourself. There is no.
Yeah.
There's no AI.
There's no versus computer.
No versus computer. The bullet that you shoot actually follows the trajectory you're pointing. So if you shoot a bullet and then you turn, the bullet will curve. So there you go. There's some strategy for you in combat. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah. Anyone else want to talk about their game?
Yeah, let's see what Jeremy was playing.
Okay.
All right. Well, like you said, I wasn't here last week when you guys discussed the 2-player gimmick. So Sharon emailed me, and as soon as I saw we're gonna do 2-player games, I was like instant. I knew what I was gonna pick. So
you too. I feel like that was a common theme with all 4 of us.
Yeah.
So I picked River City Ransom, which is
nice.
For those of you who don't know, is a old school NES game. I think it was released back in say 1990. So
that sounds about right. It's pretty close.
Yeah.
Probably within a year.
Well, originally it was released in Japan under a really awesome name called Downtown Hot Blooded Story. So and then when it got ported over here to North America, it became River City Ransom. And basically the story is some guy at your high school kidnaps your girlfriend.
Uh-oh.
And you have to go beat up a bunch of gangs and go rescue your girlfriend. It's a pretty simple formula. But I don't know, have you guys played around with this game at all?
So I'm pretty familiar with the American Technos legacy, if you will, where the company that did River City Ransom actually did a whole bunch of games where this style of character design was used, with the big head, big arms guys with the cross eyes and the angry eyebrows. Like I think Super Dodgeball's in that family, and there's another Crash and the Boys. I think those are the only 2 I can think of. Also Nintendo games, but this game is particularly deep. Like there is a lot going on.
I agree with that. When I first played it, I was like, wow, this is pretty simple. But looking back on it now, it's a very underrated game, and it's very overlooked, like the depth of the game.
Yeah, it's basically an RPG brawler, which has been extremely influential on many other games going back, the past 20-25 years since it came out. Also, I love whenever you hit enemies, they yell "barf," which seems like a really, really bad translation.
Or great.
Yeah. Also, I like how when you go to the sushi bar, you can buy very specifically expensive sushi.
Well, yeah, that was another thing. Like, the uniqueness of the game comes from like the RPG elements. So, I mean, you can, unlike traditional sort of brawlers where it's just like, you kill the enemies on the screen, you move to the next frame, and you keep going, and you fight the boss at the end. You can actually go back frames in this game, and you have to keep killing enemies and making money, because the farther you go in the game, the harder the enemies get, and you have to like buy stuff like expensive sushi to get your stats up, and you're kicking and punching, make them stronger. So like it's actually a really in-depth game. You can't just fly through it because you do have to kind of be careful and make the appropriate amount of money to get your stats. And if you die, you lose half of your money. So there's always that risk of doing things. And
It's
it's a nice
basically
variety.
the best brawler that's ever been made, with maybe the exception of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game. But this has a lot more depth than something like that. Also, I like how when they die, they all yell, "Mama!"
Well, it's also interesting that like in most brawlers, like you can't hit each other. You know, you can't really interact with each other. But in this game, you could actually beat the shit out of each other if you're not careful. Or like
Some Battletoad syndrome.
Yeah, you can have your friend jump on your hands, and then you can push him up to like higher places to get stuff you can't get normally. Or you can even use him as a weapon. Like you can actually pick up your friend and just throw him at people. So I like the inner workings of the 2-player combat system.
We only have footage of you playing 1 player though.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because when you want to play a 2-player game, you have Sharon there. Another Nick wants to play a 2-player game, he has Matt there, and then it's like me. I don't have any siblings that live with me, so I'm forever alone.
Oh, if you ever want to play a 2-player game online, you just let me know.
Okay. Here.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of embarrassing for me, but I actually know very little about River City Ransom. I know a lot about a lot of Nintendo games, but River City Ransom is a game that I never even got into very much. And I think I own a copy of it, like on cartridge too.
Maybe we need to play.
So it's like a great point of shame for me that I really don't have an extensive amount of experience playing this game.
Well, I used to play this a lot with my friends, like back in the day, but I never actually beat it, and it really bums me. And I don't want to do it alone, so like I'm waiting for that opportunity to have somebody to play with, so I can actually beat it. Because at the end, like I remember I got to the high school where you're supposed to rescue your girlfriend, but like the enemies there like literally kill you in one hit, and it's really tough to get to that last boss battle. So I've never beaten it, and I need to do that. I played a little bit more, and it's nice because if you play it on an emulator, you have the save state.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that bums me about this game is if you play it on cartridge, in order to save your progress, they have those stupid like 30-letter number uppercase.
Oh yeah.
Code. So if you mess up one letter, you're just screwed. Like,
It's like keep your notebook handy.
Yeah, that's happened to me quite a lot. So it's like I get really far, and then I have to write down this code, and then when I go to put the code back in, it's like, oh, don't recognize it. So I'm like, oh.
So the passwords have both O's and zeros.
Yeah, and
It's the worst.
They don't have the little hash.
Yeah.
So it's like, and you don't know if they're uppercase or lowercase sometimes. It's tough because of the, it's an NES game, so the pixels, like 1 or 2 pixels off, and you're like looking at a 1 L. So
that was basically my childhood and Metroid.
Yeah.
Where the O had a dot in the middle, like literally a 1 pixel dot.
Right.
And the 0 did not. And if you got it wrong, then too bad. And also, the Guardian Legend is also another awful password game. With not only are there O's and zeros, but there's uppercase and lowercase. It's like, good God, man.
Yeah, I think there is in River City Ransom too. So it's a nightmare to try and save on cartridge. So
let's never go back to passwords. Never. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna make a video game, and I'm gonna make the passwords exceedingly elaborate, just to screw with people.
No one would ever play it.
Well, no one's gonna play it anyway because it doesn't exist.
So I think in keeping with the old, we should talk about what you were playing.
Who, me?
2-player, yeah.
Who, me? Yes,
yeah.
you.
Yeah, you.
You too. Okay. So Jeremy picked a Nintendo game. Wouldn't you know it? I also picked a Nintendo game. I almost picked Bubble Bobble, but I didn't because, I don't know. First of all, Bubble Bobble you can only really beat if you have 2 players. Like, you can only get the happy end if you finish it with 2 players. But that said, I did not pick Bubble Bobble because I enjoy playing Bubble Bobble by myself as well. The game I picked, I really only really enjoy when I'm playing it with somebody else. And that, my friends, is a Balloon Fight for the Nintendo. This game's been ported like 15 times all over the place, and pretty simple. It's basically Joust, but you are in control of these little balloon riders. You have 2 balloons, and you flap around with your hands, and there are all these guys with pointy noses that are trying to pop your balloons. And if both of your balloons pop, then you lose. So all you have to do is hit the enemies from above to pop their one balloon, and then when they're parachuting down, you hit them again to get the points. The fun part is you can see I'm playing as red, and Sharon was playing as blue.
The crazy one is me. I'm blue.
And you can also pop your partner's balloons, usually by accident, unless you are an asshole. But since Sharon and I are friends, we decided we would play together.
As opposed to against.
Yes. So every time we I just accidentally hit Sharon and she died. So I killed Sharon.
Yeah.
So while we were playing this, I mentioned to Sharon, I said, it's too bad that we never we didn't record any audio from this game with us talking over it, because whenever Sharon and I would get close to one another, we would both go, right? Sharon would go 3, 2, 1. Ah! Like, we were getting way too close to each other, and we were so scared that we were going to accidentally hit each other and pop our balloons.
And oh gosh, we blew the sound out on that. But part of the reason we did that is because the physics in this are very like, it's loose gravity. So once you get going, it like propels you significantly until you purposely stop. Like, you could coast for a while before you have to flap your wings again, kind of a thing. So because of that, it's very easy to lose track of your motion.
It's the physics are surprisingly good for a game this old. I want to say the original date on this game goes back to like 85. I mean, it has its faults too. For instance, if you just stay really high against the top of the screen, you basically can't get hit. But there are some other cool things too. For instance, the fish. Yeah. The fish at the bottom. If you get too close to the water, a fish could come out and eat you. And you can have both of your balloons, and if you get too close to that water, that fish is going to come out of there and he's going to swallow you whole, and you're going to die. He also eats the enemies, so if enemies get too close to the water, they can also get eaten. So there's a lot going on there. There are also the clouds in the background. Those can shoot electric that can zap you, and you will die no matter how many balloons you have. And even though I don't know if I have any footage of them, maybe like, oh, here we go, way later in the video, we actually start adding, god damn it, I guess I don't have footage of it. They start adding these purple propellers, which will like throw you around, so you suddenly will change trajectory and get rammed into your friend accidentally. And, you know, it's the kind of gameplay that ruins friendships and destroys marriages. And just overall, even though it's really simple and really fun, if you have two people who are, you know, very competitive and they're not working together, things can get ugly. Things can get really ugly. And those are really the best two-player games. The ones where you are...
Where it's all on the line?
Yeah, it's all on the line, yeah. You know, it's a small... There's not a lot of real estate on the screen in Balloon Fight, so it's pretty easy to start ramming into things. And the worst thing of all is that the two sides of the screen are connected. So if you're not paying attention...
You can go from one to the other.
Yeah, one person goes from the left side to the right, and the other person goes from the right side to the left. You both ram into each other and die. But the strategy is pretty simple. You know, I didn't want to go with anything too complex because part of the fun of Balloon Fight is that it's just really, really basic and still fun to play, and more fun to play with two rather than one. And yeah, I mean that is my two-player game by far. I had a friend when I was in elementary school who had this cartridge, which was like ridiculous. You didn't own the Balloon Fight cartridge in the 80s. Most people who have any experience with Balloon Fight played it much later on like the Game Boy or DS eShop or the Wii Virtual Console. But I had a friend in elementary school who owned the cartridge for Balloon Fight, and we used to play all the time. It was a classic go-to cartridge for us when we just wanted to hang out, play a game together, and kill some spiky-nosed dudes. And during the bonus screens, instead of trying to collect balloons, we would try to pop each other's balloons.
Oh, really?
You don't actually lose guys in the bonus screen.
I didn't know that.
Now you do.
Oh.
Are you trying to get revenge on me now?
No, but that could have added a whole other element.
Yeah, I mean, that's Balloon Fight. Anyone got anything they want to ask about popping balloons? I mean, it's one of the classics. If you're not familiar with it, now you are.
I was totally not familiar with it before I played it with you. And it takes some time. Like, once you get the hang of it, it's great. But it takes some time to figure out those physics.
Yeah, the physics are pretty strong for a Nintendo game. Like, there's a lot of momentum
Weird
and
stuff
physics.
going on.
And learning how to flap properly is paramount to success. Absolute paramount. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's Balloon Fight.
Okay.
I love it. It's the best. Go play it. Sharon.
Yes, sir.
What have you been playing?
Well, I didn't pick a Nintendo game because I played a lot of two-player Nintendo games, but my more recent history has given me a two-player game that I absolutely adore and don't get to play enough of. And you and I played through the whole thing about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago.
Something like that, yeah.
And then revisited it recently so that we could capture this. And that is Earth Defense Force 2017.
Yeah, Earth Defense Force.
This is a game that's on 360. At least, I think it was on 360 first, wasn't it?
In the States, anyway.
Yeah.
I think EDF may have roots in other places, but I am not prepared to say what they are.
It is. It's known in Japan by another name that I can't pronounce, but essentially Earth Defense Force 3. So this is a third-person shooter, and I use the term shooter in the most rudimentary way possible, in that that's all you're doing. There's no story. Well, I guess there is a story, but...
Yes, there is definitely a story, but the story is not important.
No. It's not really. It's kind of like a tower defense game, but also not. Let me think now. It's let's see. I think they've ported it to the Vita, which is fun. But on the 360, it's only 2 player, isn't that? It's only 2 player local.
Yes, yeah. This game came out really early in the 360's lifespan.
Yeah.
I want to say it was a 2006 summer title, which means less than a year after the console came out, EDF dropped. So They were at first. Also, this game did not retail for the usual $60 American. It retailed for, I think, $40. So it was really the first budget title, and because of that, there's no online multiplayer. It's local only.
It's local, which is great because then you get. I mean, the split screen sucks, but you basically get you and your friend. They drop you into this scenario. They say, okay, so here you are in this city that's been evacuated because there are giant fire ants coming at you. Now get all the fire ants dead. And
get them dead.
Yeah, get them dead, and then you just kill them all. And there's waves and waves, and you have to destroy, say, like the ant hill or whatever it is that the bugs are coming out of. There's so many different things. There's robots and spiders and ants and crazy. I think mosquitoes at one point. I don't even remember, but. It's also not a very easy game. You have to work together. If you are not working together, you will not progress from one scenario to the other. But they have all these great drops, and they make these fun little noises when you pick them up, and and as you can tell, like for my most effective weapon was like I don't know, a rocket launcher or a missile launcher, and there are lots of fun explosions when you actually make contact.
Yeah, it's a game that I introduced to you when we were bored one night, and I knew it because it's really dumb but super satisfying. Like I personally, I don't think the game looks that bad. Like, obviously the environments are pretty simple, but especially those levels where you're killing robots or there's like 100 giant spiders on the screen, it is suitably intimidating. Like, you don't need it to look super great. You just need to feel tense. Like, oh god, there's a million ants running at me, and I need to shoot them quickly.
Yeah.
And when this game came out, I still remember reading the reviews for it just before I bought it, because I remember seeing the first trailers, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell this game is, but I kind of want it. And I started seeing reviews, and everyone, like all the mainstream sites were reviewing it and saying, we don't know where this came from, but man, is it fun. And I was like, oh, well, that's going to do it. I'm going to buy it. And I've never looked back. I played this a lot when it originally came out, and when Sharon and I needed something to play one day, and I was like, well, what can we play two-player that is like easy to learn, easy to pick up, but just like just fun for two players without getting too, like involved in mechanics. And I'm like, oh, I have the perfect game. I mean, it's just a point and shoot. When you start a level, you just pick the difficulty and you pick two weapons, and then you go into the level. And for every weapon capsule you pick up, every green weapon capsule you pick up in the level, when you finish the level, you have a chance of picking up a new weapon. And I think there's like 200 or 300 different weapons in the game of varying quality. Finding the new stuff is actually kind of fun. So every time you beat a level, you're like, all right, let's see what we got this time. Oh, cool, I got a new sniper rifle. Let's equip it and see what it does. And then you end up in a level with a million giant ants, and you're like, man, this sniper rifle is a pretty cool weapon, but it doesn't do that great against acid-spitting ants. So there actually ends up being this weird level of depth that you didn't think could possibly exist in a game this dumb. But I mean, just to I'm gonna rewind here. Like the first level we were showing here with the robots, like the big explosions and like the robots shooting. I mean, they all look suitably plastic, but I don't think this game looks that bad for what it is.
Well, I mean, it's not beautiful.
No, but
and the guys run like they've got something up their butts, but
it's basically the equivalent of a Godzilla game.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are, it's Godzilla and Mothra, and they're all like flying around, and you just shoot anything that moves. And you don't think about it. You go into the level and you go, okay, Sharon, you know what we need to do?
Shoot stuff,
all right? When things are going to come at you, this is what you do. You shoot them.
Yeah.
Good old-fashioned Area 51.
Yeah. And there's no worrying about the details when it comes to, oh, well, how much ammo do I have? And, oh, I need to get these perks so I can drop the bomb. No, fuck all that. Just shoot things until they're dead.
But some of the things that I really enjoy about playing this in two-player mode is when you start to get into the intricacies of progressing through the difficulties and going, okay, well, now we're in a city where there are fire ants, there are robots, they're coming in waves, but we also have to kill the mothership, which is spawning these other ships that are creating the robots and the ants, like that kind of thing where we had to strategize over, okay, if you shoot at this and I shoot at that, that's going to give us our most likely success to get through this wave.
Yeah, that's later in the game. But there are over 50 levels in the campaign, and there are 5 different difficulties. So when you play, like we played through the game on normal, which is actually the second of 5 difficulties. It goes easy, normal, hard, harder, and inferno.
Inferno.
Yeah, and the weapons you get, their goodness is based on the skill level you played on. So if you can get 2 people with good enough weapons to beat, say, stage 1 in Inferno, you can unlock a whole bunch of really good weapons and then go back and beat hard with those weapons. So there's like even a little bit of strategy in terms of just like, how am I going to get some good weapons and then increase the skill level to Inferno and do that. And the other funny thing about this game, which has pissed off many people, myself included, is this game was, like I said, very early in the 360's life. This is kind of before people figured out what the heck they were going to do with achievements. EDF has 6 achievements, and they are in order: beat the game on easy, beat the game on normal, beat the game on hard, beat the game on harder, and beat the game on Inferno, and collect every weapon. That is it. So almost everyone I know has 2 achievements in this game, and that is they've beaten on easy and normal. So it's kind of cheap, especially if you're into completion. The harder skill levels you can't do by yourself. You just can't. You need help.
Some of the levels you start to progress through, they stick you with a team, like a combat team of people who are supposed to go in and work together, and I think you're the commander or what have you, and you're all supposed to work together and take out these so-called aliens, which are really like giant spiders. But your team sucks. They're dumb as a post.
They love to scream.
The fun thing that they do, which is I think like one of the game's tropes, is the chant where they're all like EDF. If you pass at the end, they all chant it together. But you'll be, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes in, the 2 of you are shooting away, and you're like, okay, how many do we have left? Oh, the other wave is coming from the south. You turn around and realize that none of your teammates have made it this far.
They are all dead.
Yeah. They're not there. They don't actually assist you in any way. They provide comic.
They're there to cheer
audio.
you on.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, it's such a great game.
It's a lot of fun to play, 2-player.
Yeah, it is pure fun. Like there's not a lot of story presentation. The graphics are passable, but obviously dated.
Yeah.
But the shooting is really satisfying. And the game's just fun to play.
Well, and like you said, you don't really have to do any of the strategic approaches. You can just start it, and that's it. You look at each other and go, shoot everything, and then you play.
You know what the other great thing about EDF is? If you go into your local used game sales retail location, you could probably find a copy of this game for like $5 now.
Probably. Or I think I downloaded it digitally, so you probably get it.
It cost us a little more to do that, but if you can find an actual disc copy of this game, I guarantee you will get your money's worth. It's so much fun.
Yeah, that was my choice.
Yeah.
Instantly, I knew instantly.
It's
like,
what's
amazing. Your, what are you going to choose for 2-play? Oh, I know it right away. It's going to be EDF.
They made EDF has a very rich history. Like in Japan, there are many games under the EDF flag. The 360 saw 2 releases. There was this one and a second one, which the subtitle escapes me. I actually own it. I've played it for a grand total of 10 minutes. And after playing it for 10 minutes, I was like, but it's just not the same.
Well, you know what? 2017 isn't very far away, so let's prepare for...
we have to prepare for the insect swarms.
Oh, God.
Robots and insects together again.
Yeah.
Guys, that is going to do it for our Gimmick of the Week. 2-player fun. Let's all go and play each other's 2-player games with each other.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's sweet. All right. Well, that's going to do it for the first half of our podcast. We will...
Take a little break,
and when we come back, we will talk about all the fun stuff that Valve had lined up this week. They announced many things of import.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that when we come right back. If you're watching, don't go anywhere. If you're listening, we'll be back in approximately 30 seconds. Be right back. Guys, we are back. We're back. Hello?
Welcome back.
Oh, phew. A second I thought I was back and no one else was. It's about to start thunderstorming here. So if you hear some thunder and lightning, Sharon and I might be dead.
Or if the podcast dies.
Yeah.
Jeremy, you'll have to carry on without us.
Oh.
So, video games. Yeah. Just do a little dance. No one will know.
No, I was waiting for your music cue. in the half break. Don't you normally do that?
No, not on the live podcast.
Okay.
That's for the
How's that new
recorded
music
podcast.
working out for us?
35 people said they liked it.
Woo!
36 people said they didn't like it and want us to go back.
Oh.
And 3 people abstained.
We have way more people answering polls than I thought.
I may have just made up that poll. So this is the second thrilling half of our podcast. We usually talk about the news, and we are still going to talk about the news, more or less.
But a little different. Again, we're trying to play around with our segments. We want to be able to spice things up in Season 2 here. And one of our switch-out segments is going to be the round table, and I might have to come up with a nice little illustration of like the Knights of the Round Table in Monty Python sort of thing.
Draw
with
all of us in chainmail. Yeah. Can I be the wizard?
No. Yeah. Okay. So our round table discussion for this week is obviously almost the only news going on right now, or that came out of this week, which was the 3 separate but all related Valve announcements.
Steam.
So let's start with the first announcement being the Steam OS.
Yes. So Steam OS is a thing that Steam announced. It's basically, as far as I can tell, Gabe Newell, who freaking hates Windows and always has decided that they were going to build their own operating system based on the Linux kernel, and they were going to propagate that to hardware or to your own machine that you built.
Yep.
So say Jeremy wants to play something, Arma 2, Arma 3, Arma 4, whatever. And he's like, I really like this game, but I don't want to play on Windows because Windows sucks.
Keeps crashing it.
Right.
Or, yeah.
So I'm going to partition my hard drive, and on the second partition, I'm going to put Steam OS on there. And Steam OS is going to play all my games exactly how I want them to because it's standardized. And it's not Windows, so Bill Gates has no say.
Yeah, so screw you, Windows.
And more importantly, the OS will have streaming capabilities. So if you're running Steam OS, theoretically you could start the game on your PC and then stream it to big picture mode on your TV in your living room, so that you could play all your video games on the big screen.
Right.
Which is pretty nice because, as you know, Sharon, you and I have spent some money on cables. Lots and lots of cables.
We have a crazy setup in the DPad, for the sole purpose of being able to stream our games to a large television that both of us can watch from our computers.
Yes. And it's pretty cool, but man, does it require a lot of cables.
Yeah.
So I personally think this is fine. Basically, I think the first announcement of an OS is a little weird because, and I think Sharon, you had actually mentioned it before the podcast, where it's like, how do you announce an OS without announcing any hardware?
Yeah.
It's kind of like here's the software solution.
But to what problem?
Well, the problem is Windows sucks.
No, I understand. It's just one of the I'll see if I can find it, but one of the paragraphs in the announcement was something like you can put your Steam operating system on your Steam box, and that way you can stream from the get your game saved from the cloud or stream from your computer. And I thought, well, you just told me about a Steam box for an announcement I haven't read yet. Which they then did announce, but it was kind of weird. Like, I feel like they stretched it out, but probably didn't need to.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird announcement. I feel like there's probably an extremely large cross-section of users who have no interest in this sort of thing.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I would go as far as to say a very, very large cross-section of users are like, hey, you know what? I'm using Windows and I'm using Steam and I can play all the games I want. I have so many hats in Team Fortress 2 and this announcement doesn't affect me. Like, I'm not going to change the way I play.
Right.
And like,
that's fine.
And then Gabe Newell will break down that kid's door like the Kool-Aid Man and go, but don't you want to play this game on that big screen? And that kid will say, No, that's where my parents hang out.
Yeah. But this is definitely, if you continue into the announcements, this is definitely a more family friendly, and I say family friendly not as in PG rated, but moving forward realizing that parents are gamers because we're old now. Gamers are parents, and so gamers have kids and kids will be gamers. Hey, I like that. Gamers have kids and kids will be gamers. But in any event, families are growing up with this sort of technology and this hobby in a common way, not like it used to be. Every sixth household or something had a game system.
It's funny because the bottom right family options section that is on the Steam page is kind of just what I was talking about. It's like the way it's written on here, it's like the living room is family territory.
Yeah.
That's great, but you don't want to see your parents' games in your library.
That's sort of where I was going, is that paragraph that right there is talking about how they're trying to move into a more, family inclusive type of gaming lifestyle. And
well, they think they're the Wii? Come on.
No, well, but in a very Valve way, right? Like it's not PG. That's not kind of what I'm getting from this at all. It's more or less realizing that the entire family grew up with this now, and it's like reading a book now. It's like, going to the park and
like how many people actually go, oh, I'm gonna go to my living room with everybody. Like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people play their games in
the privacy of
but think about when you were 8, right? And your parents had that Nintendo, and where did you go? Most of us, Nick here excluded, had to play our gaming consoles in the living room. And that's part of the reason why when I grew up I was more of a PC gamer, because the PC was in my bedroom. I could go and play my own game away from where my parents were watching Goombas and mushrooms and pipes and but Valve has always been on that sort of seclusive gamers docket, where now they want everybody to be playing, but not playing like I don't know if I'm getting my point across. It's family friendly but not PG.
In any event, I feel like this first announcement was really just an appetizer to the second announcement.
But all the people who are running Steam on Linux rejoiced. They raised their fists and went, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. Linux people are like that because they're just praying to God for a victory. So I mean, let's switch gears here, because I really do feel like the first announcement was just a piece of the puzzle, because it's like, oh well, you have an OS, but what do you put the OS on? Hey, I have an idea. Let's put them on Steam machines, which as far as I can tell actually reminds me a lot of the 3DO.
Really?
So you guys know, Sharon, I know you know what the 3DO is.
Yeah.
Jeremy, you remember the 3DO?
I don't think I do.
Okay, that's fine. Not many people do, so you're not alone.
It's not true.
The interesting thing, well, let's put it this way: 3DO was a video game console in the 90s, but what really set it apart, and may have spelled its doom in the end, but there was one interesting thing that set it apart from most other consoles, even to this day.
How expensive it was?
No. Well, yes, but no. The difference was that the maker of the console was not the creator of the console.
Right.
They were not involved in the manufacturing. So what that means is the 3DO, you could actually buy many different models of it. Mm-hmm. There was one that was made by Panasonic, and I think there was another one made by a completely different company that I don't remember. But the fact of the matter was, you could buy several different kinds of 3DOs, and it wasn't, the manufacturer was not the company that was making the 3DO. The only other company I can never remember doing that was actually the original Atari. In which Sears also manufactured.
Sears?
Yeah, you could buy
Lord.
the Sears Atari, which was the same console, but it was Sears branded. So this actually kind of reminds me of that in a way, where the Steam OS in a way is Valve's common denominator, right? But the actual box itself, the actual hardware, is not Valve's problem. Like they're basically saying, hey, we got other people to make the machines, and they're going to put SteamOS on it. So it's essentially the 3DO situation.
But not only that, but they're going to allow manufacturers to make a variety of different styles of machines. So if you want something, if you don't have a gaming rig and you want to be able to play Steam in the living room, there'll be a box that will be all encompassing. It'll probably have a faster and a stronger that and what have you. But if you just want to be able to stream from your network, your home network, there'll be boxes for that too. So it sounds like there's going to be an array of things available from different manufacturers and different price points.
Yes. Let's be perfectly clear. This is like the 3DO, but this is not the 3DO.
Right.
This is a lot more sophisticated, and Valve as a company is definitely a lot more in tune with this market than the folks over at 3DO were. Believe you me, those folks at 3DO were idiots. Mm-hmm. So this does kind of have the same philosophy, though. It's like SteamOS is the common denominator by which all these machines work, but beyond that, the machines will be made by third parties to suit the needs of the customer with varying stats and abilities and what have you. So you could buy a really high-end machine, might drop you $1,000. Or if you just want something light so you can play Flora's Fruit Farm over and over and over again, you could probably buy a $49.99 version running SteamOS that'll stream video to your living room TV.
Yeah.
It's a neat concept.
The thing is that it's going to be a while before we know what our different options will be for this. And they're doing that beta, which I think we should talk a little bit about, for people who want to try and use the beta system and, give feedback and sort of be one of the first people to see what this is.
Right. So there is a beta going on right now. It's probably important to note that the odds of getting into the beta pretty low.
Yeah, well, 10% of the people who are going to get it will be people who are chosen for their strong participation in the Steam community.
Right. So let's kind of lay it out here. There's going to be 300 people who get into the beta, and according to my stats, which I'll throw up on the screen for you right now, there are currently one person short of 189,000 qualified participants. So, we're looking at, if you think you're going to be getting one of these beta units, you might as well just give up now.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. So.
Well, that doesn't mean don't throw your name in the hat. Like, it's just you have a better chance of winning the lottery than being able to test the Steam machine.
Let's not go that far. You'll never win the lottery.
But yeah, so they've got 300 of these units, these beta units they're going to send out, and they're going to let people test it out, try and play the different games that they can on it, hack into it if they want to, mod it if they can, and they want people to openly feedback online to Valve in the community, take pictures, try and stream videos. They want people to just basically mess around with this as much as possible. And do it publicly.
Break it and say why you did it.
Yep.
The last thing anyone wants in a beta is for someone to take the hardware and go run in their room with it and be like, "Yee, I'm gonna play this all day. I'm never gonna talk to anybody." Yeah. Like, that's not the point of a beta.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you make it into the beta, if you're one of those few people, those few lucky 300 folks, make sure you make the most of it. It's a privilege.
Yeah. But not only that, but tell people about it. Brag about it. Talk about what's working and what's not working.
Yeah.
Try not to be a pessimistic jerk, but if things aren't working, then you either try to fix it or you tell people what's not working and why. Not that I care, but it's just I'm hoping that the people who are chosen at random will be vocal.
So let me ask both of you guys a question.
Yeah.
Not counting the third announcement, which we'll get to in a moment. Not counting that. Let me gauge your interest on a level 1 to 10, Sharon.
What specifically
on buying a Steam machine for your living room?
I think it depends on what the machine is.
Okay, 1 to 10 on the mid-grade machine that runs all the games that you would like to play.
But is it a mid-grade machine that's... No, this is a legitimate thing. Is it a mid-grade machine that is running games off of that specific box, or is
Sure.
it streaming it from my network?
Sure, yes. Do you have any interest in buying one of these, regardless of what it is?
Depending, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeremy?
No.
No?
I
Can I ask why?
I don't know. I just where I'm gonna play my games is my computer and nowhere else.
So basically
That's
the
fair.
decision for you is not a matter of why, but where.
Yeah, pretty
I-
much. Like I don't have anything against it. I think it's a good idea, but like you're not gonna sell me because I just being me and being a PC gamer, the PC is where I will play.
I would never criticize that point of
No.
view. I think that's actually perfectly legitimate,
Yeah.
and I think there are a lot of people who would agree with you.
Well,
See, and I feel like there are some games that you can play in front of a big TV, but there are some games that I would never play away from my computer with the mouse and keyboard, ever.
Like what?
Well, I'd never play Torchlight without a mouse and keyboard,
Okay.
right? Like, that's just the one that came in because I played it last night, but...
Yeah.
But things like Skyrim, I would never play without being in front of my computer. Well, no, I play that with a controller, but I would still be in front of my computer.
Yeah. I mean, that's easy enough to put on a television. Heck, I played the 360 version.
Yeah,
I
but
think it's just going to be a challenge for them to, Steam has been on the computer for so long, and to try and persuade any of those people playing on the PC to buy this thing is problematic. I don't say it's impossible, but like myself, I know there's probably a ton more people like myself who just
oh yeah, and my assumption is that a lot of people who were early adapters to Steam, or even latecomers to Steam, but use it as their primary gaming source or distribution, are people who were playing with mouse and keyboard or at the PC computer before Steam was a thing. So that's even harder to translate or to transition those people, because Steam's trying to do something that they've been doing for a long time.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird situation, just because you can see that Valve clearly wants to move forward here. Like they're trying to change the way their industry works, which I admire, but I also think it's going to be really hard. I think that there are a lot of people. I think Gabe and co. perhaps are overestimating their audience a little bit.
Well, I don't know. I mean, imagine the common retail visitor who goes into the store and asks their local retail shop and says, "Hey, I need something for my kids to be able to play these computer games. They really like playing Angry Birds on my phone. They really like this tablet game, and now I want to be able to put it in the living room. What have you got for me?"
Yeah. It all comes down to Steam trying to be more like consoles, and the people who want consoles are buying consoles. It seems like there's still a bit of a defensive attitude with PC gamers towards consoles and vice versa, where if you're usually in one camp or the other, and this might be kind of a divisive move where you're trying to convince PC gamers that being a console is okay. Something that I personally don't agree with. Like, I've certainly in the past 2 or 3 years I've come around, and now I'm on both. Maybe myself personally, I've always been more of a console guy, so it's easier for me to see that. But I'm sure, even just with Jeremy's reaction saying no, this is not what I'm all about. Like,
Yeah.
I totally
Why would I
hear
want to
that.
play in the living room?
Yeah, and I'm sure
mean,
there's so many other people who are probably saying the same thing.
It's my decision is not based on like me being a fanboy of one or the other.
Yeah,
like
I know.
it's just
But let's admit it, they're out there. They're out there.
Yeah, the PC console war rages on. It will never stop.
Yeah, so. But I mean, I understand. My initial reaction when I started reading this stuff and it says our focus is on bringing you to the living room, and my thought was, well, I don't want to sit in the living room and sit on the couch longer and play. Like, I like sitting at my desk in front of my computer and having chat open and talking and all that kind of stuff. But then the more I thought about it, well, there are certain games that I would prefer to play on PC because it runs better or it's ported better or whatever the case is, that, yeah, I could sit in the living room and play that. That's not a big deal. But I totally, that knee-jerk reaction of, no, why do I want to sit in there?
Well, why don't we talk about the third announcement? This is probably the one that's going to elicit the most fire and brimstone. Let's talk about the Steam controller.
Okay.
This was actually announced yesterday, Friday, for those listening later on. And Steam controller was Valve's attempt to make a controller for the devices that they plan to sell. And clearly it's something that they've put a lot of thought into. And we knew even before they announced it that if they were going to make a controller, it would have to be good. Right.
Well, it would have to be different enough.
Right. Like the Ouya's controller is a piece of junk. Sharon and I got to see the NVIDIA Shield a couple weeks ago, and that thing doesn't exactly look amazing. And I think part of the Xbox 360's success long term, not just with their online, but I feel like they have a really strong controller. And it's like your input device, and I mean, Sharon knows how I feel about controllers. There are very specific ways I like to play certain games. Mm-hmm. So the controller is very important. So Steam and Valve, they announced their controller, which is this thing right here. Mm-hmm. Now, this thing looks like a boombox.
What? Are you hating on this out the gate?
No,
okay.
No. Let me be perfectly clear. I'm actually probably on the pro side of this controller in the long term.
Oh.
But my first reaction was like,
the beats, yo.
Yes. I was expecting Valve to go much more traditional. I was not expecting them to try to innovate. And
you know what it looks like?
Like going for the innovation surprised me.
It's a face. It looks like a face, like a very cute, like Darth Vader face.
I am your father. All right.
Yeah. It's great.
So I will do my best to try and explain some of the features of this fine controller. The two things you see there are they're trackpads, basically, with haptic sensors. Mm-hmm. So the reason that these exist, unlike like a actual physical analog controller or D-pad, was that Valve needed to find a way to
emulate
a keyboard and mouse. And the only way to really do that was to have something that was more freeform, something where you could move your finger around instead, like in all directions very quickly, instead of just having like an analog stick. So this was the result. There are some things that I like more than others about this controller. There are 16 buttons on it, which is actually identical to most modern controllers. Like the PS3 controller has 16 buttons. I think so does the 360. The one thing that I really do like about it, we got this touch screen in the middle, but the touch screen is also one giant button. So it actually acts like a mouse.
You like that?
I actually like it a lot.
Really?
When you think about how a touchpad works, you usually are moving around with your finger, but then when you just tap on something, that counts as a click. But in my gaming experience on, say, a tablet, there are times where I will accidentally click where I meant to, like, say, zoom in or move around. By actually making a physical, satisfying click to identify when I would like to select something is something that's very like tangible to me, and that is kind of why I'm a little bit against these trackpads, is because there's not a lot of tangibility. Like you're not holding anything. There's nothing touching your thumb but the surface of this pad.
That's the problem I had with it when I first saw it. It's like you're gonna make a controller that has trackpads, but it's not gonna feel right to most people because everybody's used to having the analog sticks at their thumbs, you know?
Yeah, it's rough.
Different.
I guess I want to try it.
Yeah, I absolutely want to try it before I make any decisions. But my initial reaction was that I'm gonna have a difficult time adjusting to where the buttons are, where the A, B, Y, X buttons are.
Yeah, that's true.
I have it so ingrained, even as I moved from, say, my PS1 and PS2 over to my Xbox or Xbox 360, I still think that the X should be at the bottom. Like that, like that's just where it always has been and where it always should be. So, that's a very subtle change, and this one is a much more drastic change. So even if the trackpads don't bother me, which they might, I don't know until... Like, it depends on how it feels, right? If you can press down, if you're not,
Yeah.
But those buttons being in the center of the controller, I think are going to cause me a lot of grief when I'm trying to get used to it.
Allow me, if you will, to present a devil's advocate to that.
Yep.
Over the past, say, 10 years or so, controllers have more and more relegated main actions instead of your thumbs. Those main actions are at your fingers. So when you were playing like Nintendo and Super Nintendo and Genesis games, your thumbs were responsible for everything, right? You're responsible for your D-pad and you're responsible for hitting the face buttons. As we've actually moved on, you may not realize it or not, but say your 360 games, let's say Earth Defense Force 2017, most of your actions are actually at your fingers, right? When you shoot, you're hitting a right trigger, you're not hitting a face button. And when you're jumping, you're hitting the left trigger, not a face button. So you are actually more trained now to use your fingers for main actions than you think. And the Steam controller, from what I understand and from what I've seen, has most of its main buttons at the top and in the back, where your thumbs are not required. So yes, you're right. The position of the face buttons are very weird, but I think in most situations you will probably not use them as much as you think you will.
But what if I'm playing something like, well, I guess that's a bad example. I was going to say Dive Kick, but that's like a two-button game. But like, say like a Super Street Fighter or something where you are kicking and punching with the trackpad.
Well, the trackpad obviously is not going to work for certain buttons. But the trackpad on the left would certainly make it easier to do like Hadoukens.
Okay, but what
Right?
about your loot drop games, right? Where you're dungeon calling and you're picking up loot and your 1 to 4 buttons are mapped out for various.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where I have to see it in action because I don't know how a lot of that's going to work yet.
But I feel like this is also an announcement separate of the other two. Like the other two definitely needed to be one announcement. This is a controller that's going to work with all versions of Steam. So you should be able to hook this up to your computer, your PC as it is. So essentially this is, an announcement for everybody, not just people interested in living room gaming.
I am notorious for slow adoption of new controllers. I didn't start using analog controllers until the PS2 era. Like the analog really came along mainstream with the N64, and it wasn't long after that Sony announced the very first DualShock, which came somewhere in the middle of the PlayStation 1 era, but I was not on board with analog. I always thought it was dumb. Sharon knows there are a lot of games that I still prefer to play with a D-pad. And I to this day I feel kind of bad about it. Like maybe I'm less of a gamer because I feel more comfortable with a D-pad than an analog. So for that reason alone, I think if this controller comes out, even if I don't get a Steam machine, I think I might like to grab one of these controllers and mess with it a little bit. I'm intrigued enough by the possibilities of it that I'm definitely not scared of it. I'm not like, oh my god, it's scary, I never want to see one of these, I hope it doesn't catch on because gaming will be ruined forever.
Well, it depends on how it works. I mean, it might be great, it might not be. It just depends on how it plays out, I guess.
Yeah.
But it'll also be, again, that same open, hack it if you want to, mod it if you can, kind of mentality that Valve is trying to reiterate here.
Right.
So I'm curious about that, but I'm curious to see how it develops over the years.
Yeah. It sounds like Steam has pretty. It sounds like they want to get this out the door like as soon as possible.
Well, the controller is being baited with the console or the Steam boxes.
Yep.
And they even go to show, I don't know if you have it, but they even go to show the prototype controllers,
Yep.
which instead of the touchpad have the 4 buttons. And it looks like those are coming out the boxes what, next year or early this year?
They're gonna drop before Christmas.
Mm-hmm. So that people have a while to play with them before.
Yeah, it sounds like they want to have all this squared away for some kind of retail launch by the second half of next year, I would say.
Yeah, but let me ask you, like I said, I feel like this is an announcement for Steam players of every interest. So, Jeremy, I know you're a computer player. Do you play anything with the gamepad, or are you all keyboard mouse?
I'll play, if I'm playing an emulator, I'll obviously hook up the controller. And Street Fighter, like fighting games, most of the time I'll use the controller, but it's few and far between. Like, it's even games that people prefer to play with controllers, I will play with mouse and keyboard. So
right. So this has no interest to you whatsoever? Or is there
talking about the gamepad, or
is there any level of interest in the Steam gamepad for someone like you?
Are you like saying like if you could use it with the PC or just in general?
Well, no, it will be usable with the PC. But
okay.
I mean, I guess in general, for your gamepad games, like when you go to, if you're going to say, a 360 controller is your go-to, or a PS3 controller is your go-to, does this have any weight for you? I'd
have to test. Like, I'd have to hold it, and it obviously is going to be weird because anything new like this it's going to be weird the first time. But I think it would have potential, to be maybe, I wouldn't say better, but on par with, Xbox or PlayStation controllers. But I don't know, it's the trackpad thing, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It could go either way, and that's what's scary. So I would just have to hold it and play with it before I could make a decision like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I do feel like if anyone has actually gone and read through all of the Steam announcement stuff on Steam, the language they use for a lot of this stuff is usually very upfront and frank. Mm-hmm. Like, it feels like it was written by a human being instead of like a corporate mouth,
a PR
which
dude.
I actually kind of appreciate.
Yeah.
And it sounds like even when they announced the controller, it sounds like, we started doing this, and we're like, but wait, there's not enough control, maybe we should do this instead. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how they arrived at this. So are you guys ready to live in a world where a potential Steam controller user could beat another player at an RTS using a keyboard? Like,
really?
What if like,
you think?
What if there's been enough research to suggest that someone using the Steam controller could actually beat someone on a keyboard in a
StarCraft 2?
No. Like, I don't know if we want to use StarCraft 2, but
I don't know.
Instead of clicks per second.
Right.
I'm so judgmental because I honestly 100% believe that it is impossible for someone using a controller to beat somebody using
which is why I brought it up, because that is I feel like that is a normal opinion to have. And the reason I bring it up is it seems like Valve put a lot of research into this controller. Maybe they're on to something. And what happens if the controller catches on and people are like, wait a second, I'm using a keyboard, this guy's using a Steam controller, and he just whooped my ass. Like, what if that happens?
It's possible in some games, but like, I love having buttons, and even though this pad has the standard amount of buttons, like I just love having things in front of me that I can hit and bind things to, and that's sort of the advantage that PC players get versus console. Like, you have your options are a lot more freed up, but I definitely think that they could be going somewhere with this thing, because it's not your traditional thing, so they had to have put some kind of
Right.
work into it to be ballsy enough to be like, yo, it's our controller. What's up?
So yeah, after I get into the beta, I'll let you guys know how it is. I would totally be interested in buying a controller. I would also be interested in buying a Steam machine as well.
Would you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not closed-minded enough to completely dismiss it as of yet. I think I would like to see how it all works. You know, in a way, it's more intriguing than, say, a PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, because I think we kind of know what to expect when you buy one of those. You pull it out, you hook it up to your TV, it hooks up to the internet, and then it does its Sony or Microsoft magic. But with something like a Steam OS, which seems to be built on an open, like a very open, hackable type of system, mind you, developed by a competent company, not the Ouya, could potentially be interesting.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
If you were considering, like, let's just go with the fact that you said, you know, I would be interested in a Steam machine. Are you interested in the kind of Steam machine that allows you to completely migrate your games off of your current PC?
I think so.
Really?
If the price was right, I would not be abject to that.
Really?
Again, it sounds like, from what we've seen of early prototypes of some of that Steam box stuff, it seems like the prices are not in line with my current budget. So that might be moot. We'll have to see what happens when it all comes down. But even just a machine running SteamOS that can stream stuff from my PC, like, that's enough. That's all I need to. Unlike Jeremy, I would not have a problem moving into the living room and be like, all right, now I can just play my corny ass Steam games and, you know, achievement horror all night. I feel like I'm in the middle.
I'm between. I'm in my interest level sits between somewhere between you and Jeremy.
So I'm positive, Jeremy's negative, and you're neutral.
Well, I'm not.
I'm not negative.
Yeah, and I'm not neutral. I think that my intended usage of a Steam machine would be different. I would not want to migrate my entire library. I would not. There are certain games that I would never ever play away from my computer. So
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
I definitely think, though, going back to what you're saying about, like, the hackability, so to speak, but just knowing Steam and knowing what kind of stuff they can sort of pull off on PC already, like through Steam, I think they're going to have a lot of stuff to surprise us with, and maybe make the functionality of gaming in the living room a lot better. Like you said, Xbox One, PS4, we know what's going on there, and we know the gimmicks already, and hopefully Steam has taken a look at that and been like, yeah, we can do that, but we can do it better. And hopefully they attempt to do some of those things.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we pretty much exhausted that conversation.
That is our round table. Those
was good.
Well, interesting announcements, and you know, we're looking at sort of over the course of the next 8 to 12 months, sort of being able to hear more about how this is actually functioning in society on a limited basis.
We'll know more soon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So. No Half-Life 3, sorry.
So tell us what's coming up this week.
All right,
what's
coming out this week, guys? I have no idea. NBA 2K14 is coming out. It is the NBA go-to game every year. I could have sworn EA was doing NBA Live this year. Did that not happen again?
I think that fell through, actually. I read somewhere.
Did it really? That can't possibly happen a third time, right?
I don't know.
All right.
You have to look into that.
We'll do some research on that one. Yeah, NBA 2K14 is the main release. October's not great this year. Let's see. Not a whole lot going on. Looks like the Wind Waker HD remake for the Wii is officially dropping on the 4th.
If people are like betas,
yeah,
the
what's
Battlefield 4 beta
that's right.
Pumped up on the 1st if you bought the digital collector's edition, or the 4th if you just purchased the regular game, or have a Battlefield 3 premium subscription. You
That's
can
cool.
access. So
not much else happening in the wonderful world of releases this week. 3DS is seeing Rune Factory 4. Apparently not on Rune Factory 4. Sharon loves Rune Factory because it is fantasy-based Harvest Moon.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, Rune Factory is actually a Harvest Moon game with a fantasy tilt. I've never played it, but I would love to rent it.
So you grow robotic apples and stuff?
Yeah, basically. No, I said fantasy, not sci-fi. There's actually a completely different leg of Harvest Moon dedicated to sci-fi. I think it's called Innocent Life, and that all came out on the PSP. I know way too much about Harvest Moon. There's also another Etrian Odyssey game coming out for the 3DS this week. Etrian Odyssey, of course, being a very hardcore first-person dungeon exploration game in which lots of patience and skill and just absolute grind fest is required. So I like the Etrian Odyssey games, but I'm just not patient enough to get through them. And there's yet another one coming out this week for the 3DS. So yippee-ki-yay for the 3DS. Beyond that, pretty quiet weeks. So it's too bad. Yeah, October's not. You guys, I didn't even realize this. Did you guys know that not this week, but the week after this week, Beyond Two Souls is coming out?
Yes,
Oh,
I did
boy.
know that.
I thought that was a next gen game.
October 8th.
Apparently, that's a PS3 game.
Yes.
I really want to try that game.
I totally dropped the
Really?
ball on that one.
I'm surprised that it's a Jeremy.
Yeah, it's like it's my every couple of months Tomb Raider game where I'll actually be like, yeah, I want to play a single player game.
Also, not next week, but the week after that, they're releasing Pokemon X and Pokemon Y.
Oh yeah,
which is a big freaking deal.
totally.
For all those 25 to 29-year-old Pokemon players.
What do you think I'm getting Sharon for Christmas? So yeah, Sharon, do you want X or Y?
X.
All right, then I want Y. So that way we can trade.
You said that with Black and White, we never traded.
Did we really never trade?
No.
God damn it. I think it might have been because you jumped in late. And
No,
by then
it's
I was
because
done.
a friend of yours came to see you and traded like every single
yeah,
Pokemon.
that's right.
So by the time I saw you the next time, you were like, "Oh, but I already have all
I have
those."
everything now.
Aw.
I haven't played a next gen Pokemon game. Like I haven't played like a Pokemon game beyond Gold and Silver. So like the whole trading stuff is like so different now because I'm so used to like, yo, come over and bring your cord. Let's hook up our Game Boy and trade Pokemon. And now it's like,
yeah, it's super sophisticated now. Actually, like I will never talk shit about Pokemon because I actually really like Pokemon a lot.
I did not get on the Pokemon train until I was in my 30s.
until I showed it to you.
Well, no, you showed it to me, and I was still like, all right, this is another one of those Nick things that I just don't appreciate. But when we were at probably the very first PAX East we ever went to, and there were these people carrying like Tamagotchis around their neck, and they did like this fist bump. And I'm like, Nick, what are they doing? He's like, oh, they're trading Pokemon. I'm like, what? Are you kidding?
Yeah, that year we went to PAX. That was the year before the. I think that was the
It
year
was before Black and White?
The 3DS, though.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The year before the 3DS, Pokemon was a huge thing at that PAX East we went to.
Yeah.
And then the 3DS came out, and it was less so because everyone had moved on. But that was the same year that Black and White came out, and
Yeah.
everyone, like everybody at that convention was playing Pokemon.
Because that's really what solidified I am a 30-something-year-old woman who is walking into, unnamed games retailer who is going to say, I would like to buy a Pokemon for myself.
yeah, but I think that stigma's going away. Like Pokemon's come a long way, and it's it's still, no matter what, a fun concept game. And it doesn't matter what age you are, really.
If you're talking down to Pokemon, there's a good chance you don't know what you're talking about anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's the facts.
I haven't had time to, or I don't have a 3DS or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it just,
Yeah.
I don't have those platforms, so I skip it.
I was just too old at the time that it became a huge thing over here, and I I was so judgmental, just went, you know what? I'm not into this kid's cartoon. These are annoying. Look at that.
I was hardcore. I had those Pokemon cards. I had a Fire and Water deck. Yeah.
Nice. It's probably worth a lot of money now.
Yeah, if I could find them.
But yeah, so that's going to be a fun release.
Guys, we've come to the end of this podcast.
All right.
Sharon, read the card.
A big thank you to everybody who's watching us live. We record this podcast in video form every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And those of you who are listening to the archive, you can find that live broadcast at twitch.tv/FromTheDPad. You can find archive to this and lots of other fun stuff like our Wednesdays La Mulana Rama on www.fromthedpad.com.
Yeah. Shall we talk about La Mulana Rama?
Very quickly.
Yeah, La Mulana Rama is our now it is our blind run through of the game La Mulana, which is a remake of La Mulana, which came out some time ago. Man, tongue twister.
Yeah.
We are going through the game. Me and Sharon and Nick are tag teaming to beat the game.
One episode at a time.
2 hours at a time, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here at fromthedpad.com/live.
Yeah. Also be sure to follow us because Nick will be introducing a weekly or maybe bi-weekly Dota stream, which will be a lot of fun. There is a team DPad that's started. Are you part of this?
I'm going to try and play with him when he streams, so
yep.
catch both.
So that will most likely start to happen on Tuesdays. Not sure with what regularity yet, but keep tuned for that. And big thank you to Jeremy again for joining us this week. And if you have any questions, you can always email Nick at fromthedpad.com, myself, Sharon, at fromthedpad.com, and you'll find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and here on Twitch, and Google Plus as well.
We're everywhere. We're propagating.
Tell your friends to come listen. We promise we'll be more interesting.
Yeah, a big thanks to Jeremy for joining us this week. Big thanks to Sharon for joining us this week. Big thanks to Nick for almost showing up this week.
And our viewers.
And our many, many, many viewers.
Ed Puma and Lady Ocelot, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
You're the greatest. That's going to do it this week. Any final comments before I shut this thing down?
No, sir.
No, usual. Nick's not here to go video games. Video games, guys. That's gonna do it.
Let's go play video games.
Next week we'll promise to do better. For episode 54, which will be episode 2 of season 2 of the DPod from the DPad. My name's Nick. That was Sharon. That was Jeremy. We're done. We'll see you next week. Bye bye. Aw, it doesn't work.
And cut.
And scene.